Now it can, if say the Spectre can't swap lanes with someone, or you're another carry like Anti-Mage who has a really hard time farming the jungle until he gets certain items, because unlike Wraith King, he doesn't have abilities that allow him to farm quickly. If you're Anti-Mage laning against Slardar, that's like one of Slardar's best textbook matchups, because Anti-Mage is weak against people who right-click, and all Slardar does is fucking right-click. So, when Slardar hits his power spike at level 6, if the Anti-Mage isn't pretty well ahead, or have an insane support, or people don't rotate to his lane or put pressure somewhere else and specifically end the laning stage, Anti's kicked out of lane. Excuse me. Slardar's gonna have his way with him. Anti just can't be there. Like, if Anti walks up to CS, Slardar's either gonna kick his teeth in and remind him why he's not allowed to be there, or straight up kill him, and then go on with his business farming. So, even that does not necessarily end the laning stage. It just means that Anti-Mage is going to have a hell of a time, and his game is probably going to suck. Now, I made some notes, so let's just double check that there's not anything else we wanted to touch on. Yeah, so the laning stage generally ends sometime between 10 and 15 minutes into the game, and how it ends would be, for example, you're the Anti-Mage and you got kicked out of lane, and if you're this Anti-Mage who has been kicked out of lane, not only are you going to have a bad game, your team is going to have a bad game, because now they're going to be in a 4v5 for a very long time before this Anti-Mage comes online, because Anti-Mage does not scale well with levels. He needs items out the ass. So if this Anti-Mage does not have a bunch of farm, he's not going to be very useful in fights. So your team is just going to be at a disadvantage. So your team has a bunch of incentive to now end the laning stage, because during the laning stage, currently, AM cannot farm. Not efficiently, at least, not even a little bit. So if he can't rotate to somebody else's lane or swap with them, he can't jungle yet, he doesn't have the items. His game's over. Anti-Mage is going to do nothing for the rest of the game. His power spikes are going to be massively delayed, and he's going to be useless. So at this point, your team is going to be incentivized to end the laning stage and say, okay, we can't do this. We need to make something happen. The laning stage is basically when everyone's weak and passive, and they just farm. They sit in their lane and they farm. There's some ganks that happen. You try to ruin the other guy's game a little bit, set him back, give him a hard time. But the laning stage ends when you say, okay, we need to make plays. We need to change what's going down here. Because the team that is ahead in the laning stage and benefits from the laning stage continuing is going to want that status quo to continue. Slardar isn't going to go rotate and pick fights if the AM keeps coming to lane and keeps trying to CS, because every time the AM comes by, Slardar's going to kill him, get extra farm for nothing, and just put the AM back that much more. So he's not the one who's going to have to change things. He's fine with things being the way they are. He wants things to stay the same. It's the AM and the AM's team that need to say, okay, laning stage ends, we need to do something.